Hello and welcome back to another episode of Well House Exorcism. This is your amazing podcast hostess, Shanna.
This is the amazinger podcast host, PJ. It's just us tonight.
Oh, God. It's like that episode of Games Overboard all over again.
Hi.
Oh, my stomach hurts. I gotta go to bed.
How you doing?
Oh, boy. So we are going to go on a side quest here in Pennsylvania because Laura and Ray were supposed to be here for Annabelle doll, but they are too cool and had to go to a chamber of commerce meeting or some.
Whatever the heck that means.
Yeah, they're big people in the area, so they go to these big old meetings. So I decided to pull out one of my side stories that I was going to hold off until the new year, but we'll do it now because I want to keep the doll stories together. So I thought tonight, Honey Bun, we would focus on the Hill View Manor, which is here in Pennsylvania. What are your thoughts about that?
I didn't even know it existed until
You're welcome.
told me about it. But I want to go now.
Yeah, I mistakenly thought that this was like the reason for like the haunting of Hill House, even though I know as an English teacher, Shirley Jackson wrote that. For some reason, my brain always like, oh, this must be what she based her stories off of, because I've known about this place for years.
I thought Haunting in Hill House was just TV. It wasn't based on anything.
Shirley Jackson's novel. Look it up.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, good. And we will obviously not cut that out. Yep. Why are you questioning the English teacher?
Because when it first came out, we thought it was based on a book. And we're like, oh, it's not.
No, it's Shirley Jackson's story. And these people who believe they're mediums go to a house because they want to talk to the ghosts. Actually, Stephen King loved it. He thought it was very inspired. So he gave accolades to Shirley Jackson for her story. Am I right?
Well, look at that.
Yeah, I don't understand why you question your amazing wife who has a 4.0 in her PhD program.
I swear, it was something else then where we thought it was based on a book. And then we watched, we researched it and we're like, oh, no, it's not. It's just
we watch a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, in any case, I really thought that the Hill View Manor was the basis for her story. I don't know why, because I've known about this for years. I want to say that my grandmother told me about it. I'm not really sure. But I'm going to just kind of briefly mention what Hill View Manor is. And then I want to kind of go over nursing homes and why they're haunted, tell some stories there, and then head back right into Hill View Manor. Okay? That's my goal here tonight.
I like
a little bit different than usual. So the Hill View Manor was known as the Lawrence County home for the aged way back in the day. And it really helped. It was like a poorhouse and a poor farm. So people who were destitute or mentally ill, disabled, basically any elderly, anybody that...
Like a place for misfits almost. People who...
Yeah. Unfortunately, there were issues way back in the day where if you don't want to take care of someone who had issues, you would ship them off somewhere else and
Yeah.
So it's a sad...
Yeah, this wasn't a novel idea. They were all
No.
over the place.
So we hear the word asylum, and asylum meant many things back in the day. And so you hear the term bedlam now, and bedlam's based off of a notorious asylum in England. But so you're sending me to bedlam. My mom used to say it all the time when I would talk to her. She's like, you're sending me to bedlam. Now I understand because I have children. But so it was not a new idea. You would just kind of ship off anybody that you want to deal with to the poorhouses. But actually, interestingly enough, as I was thinking about this, I'm currently teaching A Christmas Carol, and we just did the scene in the play where Scrooge says, aren't there poorhouses? Aren't there workhouses? My taxes pay for those. And if they don't want to go there, they might as well die, right? So it's just, that was the 1840s, and we're, this is less than 100 years later here in America. That's what the Hill View Manor was. Initially, it was a home for the aged and the poor. And then later, it turns into just a nursing home, pretty much.
Yeah.
Okay. So because this podcast is all about, haunted locations and objects right now, this fits the idea of a haunted location. Because nursing homes are a great place to have ghosts. Do you know why, PJ?
I do not. Can you explain?
People die there. That's the obvious answer.
What?
Mind blown. We shouldn't joke about death, I guess, but that is really the big reason why aged care facilities tend to have most like of these like haunted stories, is because people die there. And I actually learned a lot during my research. I have papers all over right now, all about how nurses who work at these facilities, like they all have certain codes they follow and like rules that are just kind of unspoken. And if there are ghosts, like there was one comment later in one of the stories where the person's like, yeah, well, they're always here. That was the comment about ghosts.
That's even the name of the article. It's just they're always here.
Always here. So I do want to give a shout out to Hello Care. It's a website that I was on. They've focused on RNs and like taking care of people. Obviously it's called Hello Care for a reason. But they said aged care homes are unique for a number of reasons, but working in an environment where people come to live out the final years of their lives means that aged care staff are regularly in the presence of death. So, of course, when you have death, you have spirits who either are like waiting to go somewhere else, or want to hang out a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I feel like we listened to is it on Spooked? Another shout out to different podcasts, but wasn't there a story about a cowboy ghost who like hung out and was like smoking cigarettes with the one nurse on duty?
Oh, it was in the whole episode on like people who experienced
like ghosts, like phenomena.
And they were always like immediately after like someone died, they would just feel a presence in the room or see something, and like the person who just died standing in the corner behind them or something like that.
Yeah. And what I find really interesting about that is the story about the guy with the cowboy hat. Like, it was a guy who kept coming into the ER and into the hospital because he kept drinking himself, like, pretty much to death. And the RN had said that he had, like, I think it was cirrhosis of the liver, so he wasn't going to survive. But, like, after he had passed away, and, like, he was, the body's there, he's hanging out with the cowboy, and they're smoking a cigarette, and he looks happy as can be and healthy as can be. So it's kind of like, again, that idea that when you're around death, there's a possibility you're going to have some stragglers who don't right away go toward the light. And so when I was on this Hello Care article, I thought it was interesting because when they were talking to nurses, now, of course, this is all just, them emailing out and calling nurses. But one of the most common claims that they got was the nurses said they would feel slaps on the back of their legs while they were working completely alone. So that was big. They would like feel slaps on the backs and on their legs. Like someone's like saying, hey, how's it going? Slap or whatever. Or if they're walking at the right height for like a wheelchair, like they're hitting them as they're in like their ghostly wheelchairs. So that was kind of interesting. The most common experience amongst all these aged care workers, whether they're RNs, LPNs, and whatnot, is experiencing call bell alerts in the residents' rooms when they're obviously dead or the room is not being used.
Yeah, my grandmother, when she lived in this house, she had a little bell she rang whenever she needed service. And after she passed away, I waited to hear that bell because that's, she did it so many times a day. If there was going to be like a residual haunt of any type, I thought it would be that.
Ding, ding, ding.
I did smell her perfume leading up to the funeral.
Oh, well, that's better than hearing a ringing bell, I guess.
Yeah. So the idea of things lingering after they pass, like, it makes sense, and once the funeral happened a couple days later, then, that stopped. It's for a nursing home or a hospital, it makes sense that we would have a lot of restless spirits there.
Yeah, one of the aged care workers they talked to said they would get repeated call bell alerts coming from empty and locked residents' rooms. So the person had long since died. They closed up the room, but it would still be going off on their their monitor. Yeah. And it said many staff also recall hearing new aged care residents speak candidly about witnessing ghostly apparitions after moving into the room of a recently deceased resident. And so there was one story where the RN said, yeah, I was talking to the new nursing home resident, and she was within her right mind, but she was older, and that's why she had, moved into this nursing home. She's like, I don't really mind. This room is very nice. You guys are great staff. But could you tell the man to leave? I'll fall asleep, I'll wake back up, and he'll just be, there sitting in the chair by the window. And he's smoking a cigarette, and I thought it was a no smoking facility, yada, yada, yada. And so the RN had her, describe him. And to a T, she described the guy who was dead. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, side story that I got. So
crazy. My favorite story from the care people is...
I'm probably going to tell it.
Oh,
but that's okay. Yeah, see all this right here?
The balloons.
Yes. So I actually have multiple stories.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I did multiple side stories.
Okay, we'll get to that then.
I wanted to make sure that my research was sound before... Well, research, it's ghosts, right? But you mentioned the balloons, which is the next thing. See, it goes down the line. Yeah. So do you want to read that story? You can. It's all highlighted. And then I have the extra story afterwards. So go ahead.
Okay. So according to this story, This is taken out of the
Hello Care article.
Hello Care article. According to this story, the carer had just walked into the hallway to begin her rounds when she noticed a bouquet of helium balloons standing in the hallway that were courtesy of a birthday celebration for a recently deceased resident. The carer continued doing her rounds until eventually, feeling as though someone was behind her, she turned around only to notice that the balloons had followed her on her rounds all the way into the office, causing the carer to walk outside and set the balloons and the resident's soul free.
That's so sweet. It's like she's walking. Oh, the balloon's there. Walk again. Oh, crap, it's there again. You know what? Just go outside. And so there's a reason why she opens the door later. But during another research section, I found real creepy stories from nurses. It's like the 10 creepiest tales. And of course, they had interviewed RNs for it. It was a very similar story, but it was from a different nurse completely. And it says, it was my second year working in the institution as an RN. I worked night shift on the pediatric unit. Our patients were often preschool and school-age children. We had a patient who would always want her visitors to bring balloons whenever they came to visit her. She died earlier after her long stay in the hospital. Days passed. One of my co-workers celebrated her birthday, to which we had several balloons in the station. We noticed 2 balloons floated, slowly bobbing up and down. Now, this would not have bothered me, but those balloons then stopped by the girl's previous room, just right in front of the door, and slowly went back to the nurse's station. This cannot be explained by air currents. So again, like 2 different balloon stories, which I thought that was kind of cool. I don't want to, like freak out here too much, but it's kind of cool to get the same story and a different person completely. Mm-hmm. But I think there are like a lot of like sweet, heartwarming stories too from these nursing homes, and you have these RNs who really like, and other healthcare workers like the LPNs and stuff, who really like make connections with these elderly patients and take care of them. And it really is, they're a godsend. I really believe that. It's a tough job. It is, yeah. As my grandmother was in a nursing home, you have some great nurses and some bad ones. And near her end, I gotta say, she was over here in our area, and she had some really great care. So going on from that, they have these like unspoken rules that they follow, and that's part of how they help their deceased residents find the afterlife. And one of them is opening windows. Did you read that section at all?
I missed that.
It is interesting. And again, it showed up again in my other article. So this is a common thing that if you get a job as any kind of aged care worker in any nursing home, one of the unspoken rules that you will learn is you always open a window when the person is dying and has passed away. Do you know why?
Something involving the fresh air?
Yes, it's lovely outside. It's so their spirits can leave. That's why the lady had opened the door and took the balloons outside so the child could go off to the afterlife. And so this is a story from the Hello Care article, and then there's another one that matches it from the Creepy Stories. One aged care worker shared a heartwarming story about how staff at their facility ensured that palliative residents have a lamp that emits a soft light that stays on at all times, and that a window or sliding door is always left open a fraction, as most staff at this particular facility believe that this stops a person's soul from being trapped in their room. Isn't that sweet? So it's a rule to keep a nice soft light on so they don't feel like they're lost in the darkness, and then they leave doors or windows open so they can leave.
Interesting.
I know. So now you wonder, that nurse that had the story about how that old lady explained that guy who had tea smoking a cigarette, and he was by the window. Did they forget to crack it open? I have some questions.
He's just blowing the smoke out the window.
The window that's closed, or he just likes it there. Maybe that was like his best time. I don't know. But the article then does go into detail as to why they do it. And it says, as obscure as this sort of ritual may sound initially, many aged care staff actually revealed that they also did similar things that they felt assisted their resident in the afterlife. Some staff opened windows and doors, while others spoke aloud and let any unseen forces know that they were free to go. And I think we do something like similar, it's okay if you leave now, mama, you don't have to hang out here, or let's have, like in the Catholic religion, let's have a mass for you, and that way your soul can kind of, go on to the afterlife.
Yeah, so really, I think that's one of the key purposes of a funeral, but for a lot of these people who are in these places, they don't have family, they don't have people to say goodbye to them, so they're just lingering. They're just there.
Isn't there a story about 2 Catholic priests that your mom always tells in the Mass? I don't want to mess that story up, so tell it to the best of your ability. Because, again, it shows the idea of, opening windows or saying goodbye.
Yeah, so Catholicism is all about the idea of purgatory. Like, you can't just get into heaven because heaven is perfection. And even if we confess our sins, on our deathbed, we are not pure. Not enough to be in literal perfection. So
sometimes.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
people
there are.
go-
There are cases according to like our belief and everything that you do just get a straight ticket in heaven.
I believe your mom's going right to heaven. She's a saint. Anyway, continue.
So there's a story of these two priests, maybe bishops. I think
They were priests.
And they swore to each other that if one priest died, the next one would have a funeral mass for him the very next day, to help him get out of purgatory and into heaven quickly. And so, sure enough, one of the priests, eventually dies, and the next day the other one has a funeral mass for him. And then that night he has a dream where his friend comes to him in his sleep, and he says, what took you so long? And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, the funeral mass. You said we promised that we would do it the day after we died. And he's like, I did. Today is the day after your death. And the other priest who passed away looked taken aback, and he said it felt like it's been 100 years.
Yeah.
So
It kind of breaks your heart too, thinking of that. But there's that whole idea, what is time to
eternity.
Yeah, to eternity. Because they explain, it's a bird who's carrying one pebble of sand in its beak from a mound to another side of the land, and it goes back and forth, and it takes that one pile of sand and then makes a new pyramid on the other side and back and forth, and that is just 1 minute of eternity. So yeah, can you imagine? I was down in purgatory for 24 hours. It felt like 100 years, based on the dreams you've
they
had.
only let me out just for this little talk. I have to go back.
I have to go back again. Oh boy. Anyway, so there was one more out of the window story that again.
My dream. We haven't posted that discussion yet.
No, we have not. But you'll have to.
That was the latter half of one of our.
You'll have to prepare for that emotionally, and then let it go.
I mean, I already talked about it. We just have to post it.
Oh, is it recorded?
Yeah. We had an extra long recording session with Laura and Ray one day.
Oh, yeah.
We got all into
did.
dreams and
We
religion
did.
and theology, and
It got pretty deep.
it did. So
Deep and heavy, yeah.
we saved that for a bonus episode.
Okay, that'll be a bonus. Maybe we'll do 2 this week. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'm done with college until the springtime now. So oh, by the way, that bad grade that I had, that 70%, it's now a 100%. Just saying. That's right. Anyway, so on the creepy stories from random other nurses, not from the Hello Care article, there was a similar story, and it was called Out of the Window. And it says, I was working on a night shift when a call light goes off for room 130. For all I know, this room has no one in it, so I canceled the light from the desk, but it wouldn't cancel. I walked down to the room just to check. Upon entering the room, I heard a budging sound at the window, like something or someone is trying to get out. Knowing what might be happening, I took up all the courage I could, took a deep breath, opened the lights, and walked to the window and opened it. I felt weird because a soft breeze went by and flew by me, then out the window. I later found out that a patient had died during the morning, and apparently the nurses before my shift didn't open the window. Weird as it may sound, but when someone passes, let them go and open the room's windows. And there's exclamation points there. So it's okay, it is a common thing. But there are 2 other stories that I liked from the article that you did not read. And I'd like you to tell a story. You get to choose the intruder or the smile. It's up to you.
Intruder.
Okay. Now, this one is also, I think it fits the story of Hill View Manor because it is a nursing home, but people who also have mental disabilities. So the person that the RN is referencing when the person's talking, they're talking about someone who is not all there. Okay. So that's a good connection. But go ahead, read the intruder for our readers.
I worked as a registry nurse knock shift, and it was very quiet and peaceful at 3 a.m. While doing simple floor rounds, I felt something behind me. Turned around and saw a shadowy, girly figure wearing a hospital gown run into a resident's room. I wasn't terrified at all, despite knowing the story. I was thinking intruder. So I immediately entered the room, and the resident in the room was up, an Alzheimer's patient, and she said, "Did you see that?" And I was like, "What?" And the resident said, "She went in there," pointing to the closed bathroom. I waited a bit and called for help to ensure it wasn't an intruder and that the unit was clear. To this day, I can't explain it, but know what I saw, and oddly enough, what my patient saw despite her mental status. Weird, but it's my job. Nursing.
That comes with not only are you taking care of people's health needs, you're also watching for the ghosts. And interestingly enough, in some of the stories from Hill View Manor, and I'm not sure if you watched on the website I sent you, they actually had like EVPs and video recordings and stuff.
I didn't have time. I wanted to.
Oh, I watched them with my pre-service student teacher. I'm like, come here, we need to do some research. And she's like, for the podcast? And I'm like, this is necessary for us to watch. So some of it was just trash. Like we didn't see anything, but a couple of the EVPs were amazing. And
But Zach Baggins.
Can we not talk about him?
But he was there.
I purposely skipped that. I refused to talk about him. Of course he's been there. I actually found out this is one of the most haunted locations in the United States.
This is one of the most haunted locations in the United States.
Does he actually say that? I've never watched that.
Well, that's how he talks, though.
Oh,
you
yeah,
saw
that's true.
Demon
Yeah.
House.
I've seen enough. No, but it actually is because it's so easy to get recordings and to get visuals. But there are recordings of them, like you can watch on the website of the hillviewmanor.com website or whatever. There are figures like at the ends of halls, and they're like, "Do you want to come down here?" No. Okay, you can hang out there.
You stay there then.
Yeah, that's cool. You don't have to come. And there are stories of like, ghosts running down the hallways and stuff. So again, like that intruder idea, it's vindicating, even if it is an Alzheimer's patient seeing it, there's that vindication because not only you, but that person saw it too.
Are you planning on talking about Jack Osborne?
No.
Did you see that one? Jack Osborne, he has like a paranormal investigation group.
Of course he does.
And they were there for 4 days, like alone in this building, he and his team.
Oh, is this the Portal to Hell House?
I think so.
That episode? Yeah, I saw the article.
But the place was so active that during that time, no, maybe it was Zach Baggins was there for 4 days. They were there for 24 hours.
No, it's the Portal to Hell House. That I remember. I actually a Portal to Hell. I printed the article out, but I ended up not using it.
Anyways, even though they were there all that time, they only stayed in 2 rooms because it was so active. They didn't need to go anywhere else.
Yes. And that's why it's one of the most haunted locations because it's so easy to go there. You can actually schedule public and private tours. You can investigate there. And if you forget to bring health, like safety stuff, they have it all there to buy at the gift shop because, might as well make some money off of it.
Which is so cool.
I want to go buy a hard hat.
I want to get the shirt that says I checked out of Hill House or Hillview Manor.
Hill House is pretty close. So the last story that I thought was really sweet that came from the Hello Care article was Smile. Oh no, this is from the creepy tales. Doing my rounds as a new RN in a unit, I saw an old lady dressed in hospital's gowns. Thinking that the patient was lost or couldn't sleep, I signaled her from afar, we're at the opposite ends of the hallway, to ask her what's wrong. Grabbing her attention, she turned her face to me, smiled, and passed through a wall into a patient's room. I froze from what I saw. I found out later that the woman had died 3 days earlier from a car accident and watching over her husband, who was hospitalized in the room that she'd entered. Isn't that sweet? She couldn't go to her eternal rest till she knew that her man was safe. I will not do that for you.
No, get out of here.
Yeah, scram.
Shoot, get.
Shoot, get. I'll be in purgatory. Who am I kidding? Unless they don't open the window, as I've learned.
Yep, there is that.
Gotta open the window. So if anyone's listening out there right now, open the darn window. All right, so back to the actual story we're here for. So we got all that priming going on. Now let's discuss the Hill View Manor, like legit. Now it was long abandoned. It closed down in 2004 due to like some money issues, but then it was bought, and so now it's no longer abandoned. So you can't go there and run through the hallways. You have to pay to go in for these tours and investigations. But they do have regular staff. They have cops on the on surveillance video. They have security on premises all the time. So please do not go there.
Unless you make an appointment and schedule a tour.
Yes, please.
Do it legally.
Don't do it the bad way. So again, as I mentioned, Hillview Manor was known as the Lawrence County home for the aged way back in the day. It was built to kind of replace a whole bunch of nursing homes in the area to consolidate because obviously money is always an issue. And they really did house mostly mentally ill and old people. They rarely took in children, which is actually a story later in this. They didn't really want kids. They wanted the older people who needed help. But anyway, the facility opened its doors on Tuesday, October 19th, 1926. That day, Perry D. Snyder and his wife, Mary A. Snyder, took control of it, and they were in charge. They had quite the illustrious service of this place. They're in charge of it for less than 20 years. Now, I don't know the full story, PJ, okay? I did some research. They take over, and they from what it sounds like, they're very religious. They are very high-minded. They were definitely warders that you would see circa Victorian era poorhouses and workhouses and Christmas Carol. That's what it seemed like from my research. However, when they first took over, they only had 20 people living there, and they had 12 staff members. So it was very manageable. But as you can imagine, it quickly filled to capacity and beyond. So when you have more residents, there's less care. We saw the same thing at Eastern State Penitentiary, actually.
Yeah.
Because they built that initially. You remember more about this this to me. So they built it as a place to fix people.
Well, yeah, because that's the whole Puritan ideal, is that it's not a jail, it's not a punishment, it's the key word in penitentiary is penance. And so it was about fixing people, making them repent, and putting them back out into the world as better human beings.
And didn't their rooms have they had their
Bible?
Well, obviously they had to read that Bible, but didn't they also have outdoor time, and they had their own garden area initially?
Every single of the original prison had a little, I think it was a 3x3 plot of grass or something like that.
Right outside.
It was small, but it was still a plot of grass that they could go out to.
And I think the idea, did Ben Franklin help build it? One of our founding fathers helped. I would think
probably.
But it's been a while since we gotta go back. You're going to research it now. But anyway, so someone decides that it's a good idea to have that outdoors, because you're supposed to enjoy everything that God's created, and it's supposed to bring you spiritual relief. And so initially, Eastern State Penitentiary was great. People, were reading the Bible.
Ben Franklin.
Aha, I win. They were reading the Bible. They were, serving their penitents out, all that kind of stuff. But then they started taking on more and more people. And so they went from having one story to two stories. And so then you had to share the garden space, right? And then there was...
Well, no, the people upstairs just didn't have
gardens. It's right. So,
outside time.
But didn't they have to come downstairs and share that space at one point? There was a discussion about them sharing it.
Maybe there was a discussion about it, but I'm pretty sure they were just denied it for a while.
We'll have to go back and find out.
Yeah.
But regardless, you have that, and then you add more places on and more places on. And as I said, it just became too unmanageable. It became a jail, because how are you supposed to do your job effectively when you cannot offer that one-on-one spiritual help?
Can I just say, real quick side thing, if you live near Philly or a day's drive from Philly, take a trip there, because just architecturally, it's beautiful, because they designed it with these cathedral-like roofs.
It's beautiful. Even though it's, falling apart, it's gorgeous.
And it's designed like a wheel, where the main desk for the guards is in the center, and you can spin around 360 degrees and just look down each hallway that's branching off of the center hub. It's so cool. It's such a genius idea.
Gotta thank all of our founding fathers for that. Yeah.
Also, it's just really creepy and really...
Well, and it wasn't Al Capone who had his own...
Al Capone had a jail cell there.
So you can see that's all set up. And there are just so many stories about the hauntings there. And I mean, you get a creepy vibe when you're walking through. Mm-hmm. And not just because it looks like it's falling apart. But I feel like when I was reading the research on this, I felt it was very similar to Eastern State, because I'm not going to say that the Snyders were terrible from the get-go. But when you have 12 full-time staff members and you only have 20 inmates to take care of, that's manageable, because there's 14 adults. They also have their 2 kids there, but 14 adults to 20 inmates, that's completely manageable.
Oh yeah.
But then over the next less than 20 years, you have all these extra people being tossed.
Population exploded in this place.
And so the story goes on a little further, and it says, in June of 1944, county welfare officials and the Snyders, now in their late 70s, were accused of incompetency at the home. During the hearing, the Snyders were retired with pensions, so they got off very nicely. But they were permitted to stay at the home. However, by late August, so 3 months later, the Snyders were given 3 weeks to vacate the premises. So seems like things went downhill pretty fast.
Yep.
The Snyders run over 30 years of service, because, again, they were working in a different place before they came to this location, had ended. And Mance B. Hogue, the longtime director of the welfare department, took over. And that's where it says, he did take over. And he was there. He remodeled it. He turned it into a skilled nursing center, so it really became an amazing place to go to learn nursing habits. But he said it was overcrowded by the 70s. It was really severely overcrowded, and he was not getting enough funding and support.
Yeah.
So he resigned. Like, he quit. He's like, if you're not gonna give me what I need, I quit. Well, a year later, they're like, oh, he was right. So they decided to expand and, like, hire more people. So, I gotta say that Mance guy was pretty smart. But they did keep it open from the 70s all the way until 2004, and it finally shut down. Now, that being said, while it is sitting beautifully on top of a grassy hill off Route 65, as you said before, it is incredibly active. So Hill View Manor, if you're in the area, you definitely should go visit this too, because it's interesting.
Also, Hill View Manor, if you're listening, get someone to edit your website, because, man, sometimes Snyder's plural has apostrophe S's. Sometimes it's written correctly. I mean, just please.
I like how it's not the English teacher who's complaining.
Yeah. Because I'm like, in the Snyder's, comma, the Snyder's what? Oh, it's plural. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
See, as an English teacher, I can breeze right over it because I have read worse.
Oh, yeah.
I know. Well, you have to.
But I expect,
more quality.
Yeah.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, they have some really cool stories on there. So shout out to your website, Hillview Manor. You got some really cool stories.
Mm-hmm. And we will be visiting at some point.
Oh, we will be. Yeah. Now that we won't bring the kids, though, because I think Eli will, be too scared. We'll bring Sophie. What I find interesting, too, is I was reading different articles, and there is a little story from a lady who did go on one of the tours, and her review, I feel like, I don't know, leaves a little bit to be desired. She promotes herself as a medium, so she wasn't very nice about it initially. Her name's Annabelle Wagner. However, she mentioned that when she started the tour, there was all these rules she had to follow, and so she took a picture of the rules. But the rules that I gave you are posted. These are rules you have to follow when you're there. So it is important to note that it is not safe in this manner. You need to be ready, because it says it has falling paint, loose ceiling tiles, broken floor tiles, broken windows, wet and damp areas.
And that paint has lead for sure.
Oh yeah. Electricity is not available in all parts of the building. It's unheated and has no air conditioning, so you need to consider the following when you're visiting. So don't go in the winter because you're going to freeze.
Or bring a really heavy coat when you do.
Well, and it actually says if you're going to go there in the winter, there are no restrooms then because they shut the water off because it's too cold. So you better hold it. So I'm guessing, our listeners, you probably want to go visit late spring.
Yeah, when it's 60, 65 degrees.
Yeah, Pennsylvania, there's a couple good weekends in April, where it's 70, 80 degrees. It's always 80 degrees on Eli's birthday.
May's a good day.
And then May is fantastic. June can be okay if you get
I said May's a good day.
May's a good day. Mm-hmm. Don't go in July or August because it's humid and disgusting.
And bugs.
Oh, mosquitoes out the wazoo.
And gnats, just gnats everywhere.
So,
anyways.
Just saying, even though it's on a hill, you're going to have mosquitoes, all right?
Yeah.
That's why we had the yellow fever epidemic in Philadelphia in 1793, just saying. Just don't do it. So, they say twice here, it's the building temperature will match the outside temperature, and you should dress accordingly. Later it says, the hard hats are available for your use in a limited quantity in our gift shop. You're welcome to bring your own. Flashlights and extra batteries are required to investigate and move throughout the building. Flashlights that twist to turn on are best for investigating. They're available for sale at the gift shop. I guess continually for sale at the gift shop. Respirators should be worn for protection, especially if you are sensitive to dust, dirt, or any allergens. And as you mentioned, lead paint.
Yep.
By the way, they're available for purchase in the gift shop. Hey. If you weren't sure. They do have all these rules you have to follow. If you're going to walk through that, know that you need to be safe. You need to really kind of cover your mouth, get the hard hat.
Proper footwear, bring flashlights.
Yep, all of it. Obviously, it says, don't
I
bring...
just thought of something.
Oh, go ahead.
This podcast equipment is portable.
Oh,
when
boy.
we go there, we can just talk live about what it feels like in there.
We can pay for a private investigation.
Yeah, we can have a sit down.
We could go on location, but not until springtime.
We could do an interview with them.
I don't like cold.
Hillview Manor, I'm going to @ you when we post this on
I love
Facebook.
it. And they have their own Facebook page. All right.
Let us interview you.
And you have to take back the grammar comments then.
We'll do it for you.
Yeah, your English teacher in the house.
Yes. She's going to be a doctor soon.
That's true. I will. And, I didn't tell you. Now that we're on the pod, they know my entire story now. I looked at my course list. I have 5 actual courses left, and then I have the 5 parts of my actual research and my project, my dissertation. I'm done. by the summer of 2024.
So exciting.
Isn't that crazy?
That's really cool.
You can call me Professor Hayden. Dr. Hayden. Leader of ethics. Anyway, smoking is not allowed in the building, of course, no drugs or alcohol. It says food and drink can be brought into our break room, but please clean up, obviously. All right. Now, initially when I read this, I thought it said food and drink can be bought in our break room. I'm like, seriously, you're selling it's a break room.
In the gift shop.
In the gift shop. However, upon the second, I'm like, oh, okay, we're good. So that was just silly. So there is a list of expectations on the website. Please make sure you follow that. Now, with that being said, when you go there, you can go for private tours. You can schedule, public tours. So if you're in the public investigation, you're going to be with other people walking through, and you're going to get stories from one of the caretakers of this place. Do private, you pay for X amount of time, like people Zach Baggins did. But then you get to go to different locations, and they have rules for that too. I did not look at how much it costs. Just saying. Okay, I did not look into that. Did you?
Hill View Manor. If you just have us over for an interview, and we'll make a donation. I don't know.
They've been on TV with multiple paranormal things. They're not going to want us to come.
We'll take your charity.
We'll feature.
We're not above begging.
Oh my gosh. I'm not.
I don't wear hats, but I'll hold my hat out.
The hard hat that you brought.
The hard hat that I buy at the gift shop. You'll buy at the gift shop.
There you go. Now they can't say no.
That's it.
We did it.
That's how we pay for our tour.
We're
going to buy a hard hat.
And we're going to buy a really cool sweatshirt. Too,
yes.
Because I always buy shirts or sweatshirts when I'm there.
I want a sweatshirt.
I want a zippy one.
I'm looking at the microphone like you are the microphone. Hillview
they
Manor,
are here. So. They're listening.
Hillview Manor.
Obviously, they have nothing else on their hands to do except listen to our podcast that is just starting. Well, if you add them on Facebook, I'm sure they'll listen.
That's right. That's how it works. Not everyone has a podcast out there. It's not like...
But I do want to say, while there may be grammatical issues on some things, okay, I just want to say that I love that they have lists of what to expect. Because there are places that don't do that.
Oh, yeah.
So shout out to them. And...
Well, I'm sorry, even Penn's Cave and places like that,
yes.
a lot of caves in the area, because Pennsylvania is full of caves. A lot of them don't say, bring a sweater, because it's cold down there.
It's going to be cold.
I don't know, Penn's Cave, they might, but...
Maybe they'll
I know one of
tour.
the caves that we've been to.
Penn's Cave is also haunted.
See, I don't know if I believe that one.
Okay.
I've been there a bunch. I never got a vibe off that.
Well, they have bear stairs.
They do have bears.
But I just like that they tell you what to wear. They're very upfront. Like, you're not going to have a bathroom.
I have to say the website overall is really cool too.
Oh, yeah.
I do like it.
I like that they post all the EVP readings and stuff that they get.
That is awesome.
Just saying. Again, one of the most haunted locations in America. All right, so now I want to get into why it's haunted. All the ghostly residents.
Is this the first one we're doing? Because
yes.
I wish I could have met this person.
She sounds hilarious.
Yes.
So do you want to talk about her? Because I'm not really sure if I can pronounce her last name. It looks
Ayello.
Spanish. Ayello?
Or Ayello.
Ayello?
Ayello. I think it's Ayello.
Look at the double L. Like I want to say it like I'm apologizing.
I'm gonna use the American neutral accent and say Ayello, even though I'm sure it's wrong.
I had a student whose last name was Arellano, and I pronounced it Arellano until I realized it was two L's.
The
and
double
it'd be
L.
Arellano. Yeah. So it should be
Ayello.
a Y.
I'm pretty sure it's Ayello. So Mary Ayello. So I'm going back on my.
It's one of the ghostly residents
yes.
of Hill View Manor.
They don't really in terms of ghost, all you really see is her going from her room to the bathroom to wash her hands because she had OCD and she washed her hand minimum 15 times a day.
Yeah, generally it was 20, they said.
Yeah, but she was born without any eyes. And that's important because...
I love this story.
Because she had fake eyes, and whenever she knew that a new hire was working, she would put her eyes on the floor. And so when they open the door, they'd knock them and they go rolling on the floor.
Or it says here, she loved to play tricks or pranks on the staff who worked the second floor. She would ring the call bell for the staff to come back and straighten her bed covers. As soon as she knew they were coming, she'd remove her prosthetic eyes, hide them in the blankets, and proceed
blankets, okay.
And proceed to cross the hall to wash her hands. She would wait and listen for the reaction to her eyes rolling out and startling the staff. I love that.
But
I mean, if you're blind, you might as well have fun. You're like, I love it.
And she also loved playing bingo. which is just fantastic.
And it says, how can blind people obviously have Braille bingo cards?
Yeah,
like,
or it said like she might have had a helper too who would like read off the card. But Braille bingo just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's, again, like there are so many ways to adapt, to your surroundings. Like I have students who are deaf, and you learn to adapt.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I like it says she would recite little snippets of poems she learned. Some of them were a little improper, but spoke those words loud enough to be heard in the hallway. The same nurse's aide recalled the day Mary was transferred from Hill View Manor and placed in a local nursing home in Newcastle. And then she heard the familiar voice come in the hallway, and she's like, "Oh, that's Mary," like that. But apparently, you can hear her walk. You hear her telling her improper jokes. You mentioned you see her walking to wash her hands. So that's kind of what you see there.
Yeah.
I don't think I caught anything else really.
No, in terms of apparitions or ghostly activity, that's all she does. Is she doesn't rock in her rocking chair or anything that she loves. She doesn't play tricks on anyone that she used to do. It seems more of in terms of residual versus intelligent haunt. This definitely feels like a residual haunt of her just, a recording of her just crossing the hall and doing her thing.
And her birthday was Valentine's Day. Isn't that sweet?
I missed that one.
It's in the very bottom.
Oh, hey, look at that. Yeah.
Seriously. I give you these papers, PJ. I expect you to notice everything.
I read the story. And then I see all the stuff at the bottom. I'm like, I don't need that. That's not the story.
I don't read the script. Script reads me. All right. So another ghost that was mentioned in the Annabelle Wagner, I want to say it was a Medium website. And so I'm not sure if she counts herself as a medium, but she's just telling a story about going to the Hillview Manor. But it was kind of snarky, and I was angry for Hillview Manor because their job is to take you on tours of this manor,
And something that Kyle said in last week's episode was that if you're going to do one of these things, at least have an open mind about it. This article, from the get-go, she is very against this.
Yeah, she's very vicious.
And it's why do you pay the money for
Why'd
this?
Why'd you go?
Why would you do this to yourself? You're not going to have a good time, so what? But then she flip flops. It's obvious she wants to make I don't know.
I don't mean to speak poorly of her, but she writes the haunting of Hillview Manor. Do ghosts roam the halls of the former nursing home? And so I'm not going to go through the entire article, but she discusses a couple of different ghosts that live there, and she actually gets one of the ghost names wrong. She mentions Mary Ayo, but she puts Ayaya. Mentions the washing her hands, She mentions Jeffrey, who we'll talk about later, but she focuses on Mary Virginia. And so, and it says here, Mary Virginia's is a sudden and welcome explosion of color. That's her room that she mentions. Her bed has been made with the bright red and pink blanket covered in hearts, adorned with dolls and stuffed animals. I smile when I see a Raggedy Ann doll similar to the one I used to own. Draped from the rod around her bed where the curtain should be are beaded necklaces and feather boas. On her nightstand are many little trinkets. Costume jewelry, tiny angel statues, fake flowers, and jeweled combs, all surrounding a photograph of an old woman in a wheelchair, wearing a purple dress with white lace around the collar and wrists and a flower wreath atop her head. And then, of course, there's this presentation going on, and so the person who was walking them, or her name's Carrie. Carrie says, Mary Virginia came to Hillview Manor as a child and remained here until its end, and it says, guests who visit the manor like to leave gifts for her. So what's interesting about the end of this little article then is that she herself pulls out her earrings and lays them down for her. It says, I reach up and unclasp the fake pearl earrings from my lobes and place them on the nightstand next to a cat-shaped pin. I take one last look at the picture before I stand to go. I'll remember you. It's so you were angry the whole time, but then you mentioned Mary Virginia, and there's really no story about Mary Virginia from my research except that and her cool room. But it's kind of cool to see this naysayer feels a little bit of that presence there, and she feels a connection. So she gets a little bit of a win in my book for kind of redeeming herself at the end. Mm-hmm. So that was one of the ghosts. One
thing I did like about the article is when the tour starts and Carrie, the owner, introduces herself, and she's like, we originally bought this place in the hopes of converting it into an apartment complex.
Yep.
And then they're like, no, we're not doing that.
Well, and when you look at the research, because now I'm going to move on to the haunted Hillview Manor, from Philly Ghosts, the blogger from Philly Ghosts. Something that's true about this place is that it's been known for countless suicides, So like a lot of terrible things happened in this place. We can't while we're telling all these cute stories of these ghosts that are going to live there, Mary and another Mary, and then we're going to see Jeff and whatnot. It was not a happy place. The mentally ill were brought there, the financially destitute who had nowhere else to go. You have these people, the extras of society that some people don't want to take care of, and they're kind of thrust on the state welfare. And then when you're overcrowded, you can't get the help that you need. And so people hanged themselves here.
Well, and like to be just like, apologies for using this, but like a quote unquote regular person, who just doesn't have family or a home. And so you're living here with people, screaming in the night and, people who just need mental help, and you're just there needing a place to live because no one else is there for you. Like, that's rock bottom for a lot of people, you understand in a way, like, why they would take that way out.
Well, and you're a special education teacher. And I have too, but you more so have studied so much in the way of like how special education has evolved,
Oh, and how, like special education people, like people with special needs in the early days of this time, like they were used in experiments or
historically abused.
Went through all kinds of abuse in a way to, quote, cure their affliction. And
like lobotomies, man.
Electroshock therapies and all kinds of terrible things.
Yeah. No, Shutter Island kind of gets that wrong. From what I was talking to a friend who actually has had electric shock therapy, and EST nowadays is not the way it was back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
But they can like focus on certain parts of your brain, and it does like have great positive effects for some people. But yeah, the experimentation to get to that point.
And the voltage they used back then.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So much more severe.
Yep. Well, and what was it? We were in college. I want to say it was in one of our psych classes that we took together. The story of these poor children who were a part of the breakfast club, but they were all the special needs kids in the school, and they got extra breakfast. Do you remember the story?
Yeah.
And it turns out that they were putting nuclear stuff, radiated food, to see how their bodies would react to all this radiation.
Yep.
So there you are in a public school, and the government is testing on you because you're special needs and no one's going to care.
Yep.
So like I think that is part of like why this is so sad. And I'm glad it didn't turn into an apartment complex. Like we need to keep this as part of our history, because it's a showcase of what happens when you're overcrowded, when you put people that shouldn't be together. Like you mentioned, someone who's rock bottom versus someone who, maybe is schizophrenic and doesn't have the medication because it didn't exist back then.
Exactly.
They should not be together.
No.
There are places for that. So I'm glad that it's there for us to see and remember. But of course, these cutesy ghost stories make it a little more positive. But if you don't know what really we're talking about, I really urge you, listeners, to kind of do some research on like the early years of mental institutions and what happened to our special needs children and adults too, actually. Yeah, that's why IDEA, it's IDEIA now, right?
Yeah.
That's why it exists, is to protect people. We're not going to get into that. It's a lot of...
It's for a different podcast.
That's a different podcast. Our education podcast will come out soon, too. All right, so anyway...
Hold on.
Fourth one, we'll add it on. That'll be another bonus episode. So yeah, reports of hangings are standard. People would jump off the roof, too. So again, it says on the second page that I have here from the Philly Ghosts website that a large percentage of those who died are buried on site with unmarked graves.
Yeah.
So I'm not even sure if there's a record of how many people died here.
I know.
Because when you're overcrowded, how do you keep proper paperwork,
Yeah.
So again, kind of sad there. But let's move on to things that we have happen.
I want to know how they got on the roof. Because it says the majority of them were, like, from jumping off the roof. Like, what the heck?
I would say... severe overcrowding and severe lack of staff.
Yeah, no supervision, but like I assume that means there's a ladder or a stairwell that goes up to the roof.
There has to be one.
I've never been on the roof of my house.
Well, our roof is different, but like for a flat-topped place like this,
you have to get up there for maintenance and all that.
Schools have it too, like Millville School has it.
Yep.
But again, like they broke free to do that, which kind of has me concerned. However, now that schools are facing, staffing shortages, you got all these kids running around and one person in charge of like 60 kids sometimes. Yeah.
Watch your roofs.
Watch your roofs. Wow. No. All right. Anyway. So some random things you'll see happening in Hill View. You'll hear reports of slamming doors. You'll hear voices talking to you. You'll hear the proverbial footsteps down the hall, right? People have seen ghostly fragments at the end of the hallways.
You'll feel like hands on your back or even getting pushed.
Yes,
in extreme
there
cases.
are some violent ones. Scratching on the floors, which is interesting. Banging, pipes rattling. You'll also smell smoke.
You might see the residual hauntings of Zach Baggins walking the halls.
Okay, listen, I don't want to. All right, so
do you think that there's a house somewhere that he is haunting with his residual energy?
This one right here.
The more we talk about him, the more real he becomes.
The more podcasts I do, the more he pops up, and I'm just like, this is not a podcast for him.
If we keep talking about him, he'll just materialize.
Please, no. We have empty chairs here, and I want them to stay empty. They're Les Miserables. Empty chairs and empty tables. I want that, and I want it to stay that way. Anyway, the first, I should say that one of the first ghosts I want to talk about, apart from the Marys, right, is the little boy that they actually allowed to come in. Again, they didn't take children very often. It was meant for the elderly more so, but they did take in a little child that everyone calls Jeffrey. And that's mentioned in a whole bunch of articles. Even Annabelle Wagner, who was not very nice in her article, she mentioned Jeffrey too. So she said, Jeffrey is a little boy who loved baseball and Babe Ruth. He was orphaned and abandoned at the poorhouse, and now he is there in his afterlife. He shoots marbles. On the actual website of the Philly Ghosts website, they mention him, and it says that one of the most commonly seen spirits people have witnessed is that of a small boy. While children were not generally accepted into the home, there is evidence that a young boy was permitted to stay at the home when it first opened its doors. People refer to him as Jeffrey, and he is said to look to be about 6 or 7 years old. There are legends attached to the spirit, though, that state that if you see him, you're going to perish soon after. You're going to die. And so as I was combing through the website, there was a story of a guy who was there and within 5 days, he was dead and he had seen Jeffrey.
And he had also, was he the same one who he saw this black thing that would be around him and it followed him all around the manor, which is crazy.
So maybe we don't want to go.
Yeah, we've seen enough black things.
We'll just wear lots of extra crucifixes and holy water. We'll be fine. It's fine.
I have a Benedictine medallion.
Yeah, we'll just bring the crucifix out of our dining room.
And I'll bring the medallion and we'll
be fine.
We'll be fine.
And bottles of holy water. We'll just douse ourselves in holy water.
But
yeah, so
Kyle will bring his Ouija board from his backpack.
No, it says you're not allowed to. One of the rules is you cannot bring Ouija boards.
I know, I saw that.
I'm so proud. Thank you for saying no Ouija boards. Anyway, again, I appreciate these people. They're smart. But yeah, so Jeffrey seems really cute and he likes Babe Ruth, but also if you see him, you're going to die. So I find that to be an interesting little story. Who else is there?
So there is another man who you see usually around the boiler room, and he's an older man.
Yeah, he's unnamed, right?
No, from what I gather, he doesn't have a name.
Must have been a
but
worker.
He hates when people get near his space.
Get out.
So to quote, is this from the Philly?
It's the Philly Ghosts.
Yeah, Philly Ghosts. So here's a quote from them. They say, he's known to speak on EVPs, asking anyone who trespasses to leave immediately.
And actually, another article that I'd read had said that he can be very mean too.
Yeah.
It's he will shove, and you smell the cigarettes around him. But I wonder,
And I think he's the one who says, get out. You know, he'll straight up tell you to leave.
I feel on the website, there's an EVP where it's him talking. There's someone who's get out, right? But he seems to be the most angry. Although, if you see Jeff, you're going to die. So, I don't know which one's better here. I wonder if he was a worker.
Probably,
room,
yeah.
Right? All right, so anyway, they mentioned Mary Virginia again. People leave her presence, which is adorable.
Lastly, I looked at the Portals to Hell one, which is the Jack Osborne one. They were there, they were there for 4 days.
4 days.
And they only got 2 rooms just because of all the activity there.
What happened? Because I actually didn't read that.
It was hallway and 1 north.
They only got to a hallway?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So in a building that's almost 100,000 square feet, That is a very small piece of our building, is a quote from the article here by Melissa Keene. And so the evidence and experiences they had did not disappoint. Jack said, it's like the building was alive, and that building is relentless. Wow. And then he goes on to say, like, I really feel bad for the editing crew who has to knock this down to 45 minutes because of all the stuff they got. So I wouldn't mind trying to find this episode.
Yeah.
And I would like to watch it.
From?
Their original name was called, because it's now Portals to Hell. Their original show was called...
Is it on like...
Paranormal Lockdown.
Paranormal Lockdown. Okay.
Yes.
Huh. Was it like during COVID?
I don't think so. I think this was before COVID.
They locked themselves down in paranormal places.
Yeah.
Interesting. Huh. So did they say like what all happened, or did they keep it a secret because you had to watch the episode?
Yeah, let's see.
Imagine only getting through like a hallway. Like we couldn't go further because there was a hallway and it wouldn't stop talking to us. But like there were videos too, like them like in the hallways and trying to talk to something that's at the end, and you can see that there's very clearly some black figure, and they're like, "Do you want to come here?" No. Okay, well then fine, like, and like they're asking that things like move balls and stuff and toys. It's interesting. Like these ghosts are so interactive.
Apparently, Jack Osborne has a quote woogie boogie scale that he rates all of his places he visits, and he rated this place a 9
out of 10.
Yeah, and Carrie, the owner, says she holds that with a score she holds that score with honor.
Yeah, I would, man. That's why I don't think that Carrie and all the other owners now of this place, they're not going to let us come for free, PJ, because they've been on every TV show. They know that they got a niche here. But I want to end with one last story that is it's connected to Hill View, and that's about a nursing home. It's from the Creepy Stories again, but it's a happy story because today is St. Nicholas Day. In the Catholic Church, St. Nicholas is basically our Santa Claus in like Western culture, but St. Nicholas was like a totally cool dude. He, was from a wealthy family. I want to say he was a Greek family.
I think so.
Yeah. Was rich. He went into he loved the Catholic faith, wanted to be a good priest, good person, and he's now our patron saint of really the poor and women who want to marry, because there's this beautiful story about this father who cannot take care of his daughters, and he basically has to sell them into slavery, like marriages that would not do well because they don't have dowries. So their lives would have been horrible. And so it said that Nicholas went into their houses, because you used to put your socks and your shoes by the fireplace to dry overnight because you had one pair of shoes and one pair of socks. So he put gold coins in their shoes, and then they were able to pay for their own dowry and live their own lives. So that is so this morning our kids woke up and they had little gifts from St. Nicholas, right? And of course, modern day,
he was German.
Well, he was, but I want to say that he came from a Greek family.
He might come from Greece, yeah.
Yeah. So we've heard of Sinterklaas, we've heard Krampus, that kind of stuff, and we have Père Noël in France, and we take these ideas and we kind of make it this amalgamation of Santa Claus. Yep. I don't want to say it was Coca-Cola that made our fat, jolliest Santa that we have nowadays.
No, it was a toy store.
It was? It wasn't?
Mm-hmm. It was the rhyme, the poem about the night before Christmas.
Jolly old St. Nicholas, lean your... That one?
No, the night before Christmas.
Oh, where they mentioned the correct reindeer?
Yes, and then Coca-Cola took that description and they made the man that we know today.
Yeah. Can I just please make a side comment that my 8th graders and I did research on reindeer, because we decorated our entire hallway. We have enough doors in our middle school hallway to do all of the reindeer, including Rudolph. And so we wanted to make sure that we had all the names spelled correctly.
It's a big hallway, by the way.
Well, our school is also haunted. Anyway, so we made sure the names are spelled correctly. We wanted to see who were females, who were males, in case we wanted to put bows in their antlers for the doors. And we were all amazed to learn that, it's not Donner, it's Donder. And if you listen to the readings of it in the 1940s, you'll hear them say Donder. Right. And even our recording of Thomas Kincaid, he says Donder. He doesn't say Donner.
Yeah. I always thought it was like a glitch in the microphone.
Me too.
When he was reading it.
Because he says Donder and Blitzen. So during our research, we learned it is Donder, Donder. And it comes from the German, because the poem is actually German. And it's Dunder, D-U-N, like Dunder, Dunder Mifflin from The Office. But D-U-N-D-R. And then Blitzen was actually Blixum, which is fun to say, Dunder and Blixum. So
Blitzen makes sense because that's Blitz is German for lightning, so
Yep.
it's like speedy.
Yep. But yeah, Blixum, and then we changed it to Blitzen. So with those, so that was interesting. So we learned that, and then there was a big fight in the hallway because people saw the name Donder on the one teacher's door, and they're like, "That's spelled wrong. You eighth graders can't spell." And we're like, "No, we did the research. We're correct. You're dumb."
Got put an article next to it.
Well, that's a joke. Like we're going to have to put up our founded research. But I said, like, in a nutshell, Donner was a bad guy. Well, the Donner Party, I shouldn't say they weren't bad. They were ill-fated. They ate people, okay? Yeah. We don't like Donner in America because they ate people. We don't like Dahmer because he also ate people. But Donder is a nice reindeer who just wants to bring you presents. And so...
You know what Donner the reindeer does?
Eats reindeer. Yeah, eats people too. We don't want him either. He rides with Krampus. Ooh, a new story is made. Ooh. Yeah, that's a new scary story. Anyway, but we also learned that all the reindeer are female, scientifically.
Yep. Maybe not by name, but...
No, yeah, but scientifically. And for our listeners who don't believe me, look it up. Reindeer and caribou, they're the same thing. Fun fact. Mm-hmm. We learned that too. Female reindeer shed their antlers in the summer, and they have their antlers all winter until the springtime when they're giving birth. Male reindeer shed their antlers in the winter and had them all summer. So since we see all of Santa's reindeer with antlers, they have to be female because it's Christmas, it's winter. But according to the poem, the first four are female. I mean, Vixen, come on, that's a girl's name. So traditionally, in terms of the poem, the first four are female, and the last four and Rudolph are males. Donder is a boy. So there you go. So why am I talking about Santa Claus? Well, today's St. Nicholas Day. And so this last story, which is not scary, but it's really sweet, comes from the 10 creepy ghost stories from the RNs, the windows and stuff.
Yep.
So I want to finish up with this story right here. I just think it's so sweet. It starts off by saying, when I first started nursing, I had this patient that looked just like the pictures you see of Santa. He had the white exact beard, the belly, and the cheerful disposition. We told him how much he looked like Santa Claus, and he'd laugh. I forgot to mention, too, that this was in December, which also made it freaky. So we asked him who was going to deliver those toys since he was in the hospital. And he laughed and he said he would just have to be out by the big night. As the days got closer, he was still very sweetly joking with us nurses, and he showed no sign of a change in his condition. Around 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, he passed away quietly in his sleep. The staff was in shock and saddened that his wonderful man had passed on what should be one of the happiest nights of the year. Then we realized his words before that he had said he had to be out of here for Christmas. I haven't believed in Santa since I was 8 years old, but that night when I went home, I looked up into the sky, hoping to get a glimpse of my Mr. Santa Claus. Isn't that sweet?
It's a great story.
And that's just how it ended. So I thought that was a really sweet way to end the story.
Yep.
So there you go. The Haunting of Hill View Manor. If you are in Pennsylvania, you should come check it out because it is an amazing place to go. You can get EVPs and videos really super easy. Check out their website. Carrie does do public tours. You can also talk to her about doing private investigations.
It's less than 2 hours from where we live.
Oh, you looked it up right now?
Well, no, it's outside Philly, so
yeah.
It's got to be. Because Philly's 2 hours away from us, so.
Penn State's closer to us than this place. But, I mean, so really, it's an interesting place to go. Just make sure you're going late spring. So aim for late April, May. You can push into June. We had a great wedding day, June 26th, so it can be nice in June sometimes. Do not go in July or August. Dear heaven, we're just promising you don't do that. If you want to go in the fall, because it's kind of creepy, October can get chilly up here. I mean, I remember there being snow on the ground when we were trick-or-treating. We've worn winter coats to go trick-or-treating. It's usually pretty chilly in October, so don't get past September.
A 4-hour investigation with 1 2-hour live stream included is $450.
It's actually not that bad.
No, it's not. You can go all the way to 8 hours, which is $800.
Again, that's not bad.
No, it's not. That's like any amateur ghost hunters out there. Like $800. Everyone in your team pitches in a little bit. Like you got yourself a night. I
have no interest in doing any ghost hunting because of us going to the Jersey Town Cemetery.
But
and I don't like to dabble in those things. I like to kick them out of my house.
But if we wanted to do like a recording session there or something. That's something,
Just like Eastern State. I like going to these places to learn about the history and how we have learned from our past.
Carrie, if we pay for the 4-hour session,
can we have an interview?
We'll slip it an extra 50 and make it even 500.
And free editing.
Oh, we'll buy hoodies.
We already said that. No, I want a zippy one.
That's a hoodie.
But I want a zippy hoodie. I don't want the pullover hoodie.
Do you know if they sell?
No.
Carrie, do you sell zippy hoodies?
Oh my gosh. I hope she answers. I would squeal with happiness if she made it to the end. So again, if we go, we pay for our private one. Can we get a free interview? We'll buy hoodies.
Or a $50 interview.
Yeah. And I will throw in free editing of at least 3 pages on your website. How's that? Edited by future Dr. Hayden. Oh boy. All right. Well, that's all I have for the season. Do you want to add anything else?
No. I mean, this seems like a really, really cool place that I can't imagine too many people know about. Like,
you know that Kyle's going to want to go now, right? We're going to have to take Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle's going to have to come.
And Laura. And Jen. And Ray.
We all pitch in that $450 bill, $500 bill. just gets a little and little less. Just so the more the merrier.
There we go. We'll just leave the kids with your parents. Done. All right. We'll take Owen too. Owen want to go.
Oh yeah.
Oh, so happy St. Nicholas Day, and I'm not sure when we'll have the next podcast up, but happy Hanukkah too to those who are celebrating soon. So have a lovely week. Happy late St. Nicholas Day. And, we're going to the Hanukkah season. So in the future, I'm going to say happy Hanukkah, but that starts on the evening of the 18th and the 19th. So have a lovely holiday season.
Yes, thank you everyone for listening. You can check us out at gamesoverboard.com. Email us at gamesoverboard@gmail.com. Like us on Facebook. Leave us reviews.
Please.
Yes. Check out our other podcasts of Danger and Dice and Games Overboard.
Please like and share.
So thanks everyone for listening. Be sure to check us out at gamesoverboard.com and email us at gamesoboard@gmail.com.
You can also hit the contact button on our website.
Yep.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Like us on Facebook, and please, if you
and
like...
share us on Facebook. Like and share.
Yes,
please.
definitely. Spread the word. Spread the word. If you like the podcast, and we don't want to feel you feel pressured, but if you like the podcast, please feel free to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or iTunes
on
or
Facebook.
Spotify, Facebook, wherever you get your podcast, so we get some more viewership
feedback
that way.
If you have an idea for a podcast, for episode for here, or for Danger and Dice, please let us know. I would love to expand my horizons for you.
If you'd like to be a guest, share your story, and we'll have you on the show.
If your name is Carrie and you own the Hill View Manor, you could be first in line for a guest spot on here.
Yeah, I guess we don't have to be there. We can still talk to you. Online.
Oh, no, we'll come to you.
Well, I mean, we will come to you if you want us to.
Anyway, on Spotify or Facebook, on our website, on wherever you listen to your podcast, be sure to check out Games Overboard, where we review our board games. Well, that's PJ's niche. And then join us on our Danger and Dice, where we have lots of fun with D&D.
Yeah, definitely. If you want a good starting place, The Princess and the Dragon Parts 1 and 2 are a great way to get into that podcast and see what that's all about.
Although I think the Giant Slayer is going to be a good one.
Giant Slayer is looking to be... That's going to be a two-parter also, and that's looking real good.
Yeah. So please hang out with us some more through this holiday season. Have a great evening.
Bye, everyone.